Welcome to Witches and Yoga Pants, your cozy corner of the cosmos, where modern magic meets everyday life. We're here to explore magic, mindfulness, and personal growth with a grounded, no-fluff vibe. Whether you're into moon rituals, tarot spreads, or just trying to survive Mercury retrograde, you are in the right place. So get ready to disrupt some old patterns, explore what it means to reclaim your power, and remember who you really are. So pull up your yoga mat, light a candle, and let's get into it. Hello and welcome back. Today I want to explore a subject that humans have wondered about for thousands and thousands of years. A question that seems to follow us no matter where we came from, what spiritual path we were raised in, or what beliefs we eventually grow into later in life. Why are we here? Not just in a practical sense, not what job you're supposed to have or what goals we're meant to accomplish, but deeper than that. And why does life unfold the way it does? Why do certain people enter our lives and change us completely? Why do some experiences feel strangely familiar? Why do certain lessons repeat themselves over and over until something inside of us finally shifts? Why do some people feel spiritually awake from a very young age, while others begin questioning everything much later in life? And perhaps the biggest question underneath all of those, are we more than just this one lifetime? Today, I want to explore the idea of the soul's journey. The possibility that our souls may exist beyond this singular human experience, and that life itself may be a part of a much larger process of growth, awareness, healing, and evolution. And as always, I want to say that I'm approaching this as exploration, not the absolute truth. I think these conversations are deeply personal, and everyone listening is going to connect to these ideas differently. Some people may hear this symbolically. Some may fully believe in reincarnation and soul contracts already, while others are simply feeling curious about it. Because whether these ideas are taken literally or metaphorically, I think they still invite us into a deeper reflection about who we are and what this human experience might actually be about. One of the books that deeply shaped conversations around this topic is The Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. In the book, he shares accounts gathered through hypnosis work where people described experiences between lifetimes. They spoke about returning to the spiritual home, meeting with guides, reconnecting with soul groups, reviewing past lives, and preparing for future incarnations. And again, none of this needs to be accepted blindly. But what I find fascinating is that not only the stories themselves, but the themes that repeat over and over throughout them. The idea that Earth may be a place of accelerated growth and learning. I have felt this about Earth since I was a small child, so now it's kind of all making sense for me. Think about the idea that relationships often serve as catalysts for healing and transformation. The idea that challenges may hold meaning beyond punishment or randomness. And the idea that we may travel through many lifetimes alongside certain souls, learning different lessons together from different perspectives. And whether someone believes every detail or not, I think many of us have experienced moments in our life that feel difficult to explain through logic alone. The instant familiarity in certain relationships, the feeling that you've known someone forever even though you've just met them, an unexplained pull towards certain places, cultures, or time periods, fears that seem older than this lifetime, deep emotional responses that appear before the mind can fully understand why. And there are moments in this life that feel less like learning something new and more like remembering something ancient. And I think that feeling is part of why so many people become curious about the soul. Because something inside of us senses depth. Something inside of us feels that there may be more to this experience than simply surviving, producing, consuming, and eventually disappearing. One of the concepts I find most comforting in these teachings is the possibility that the soul views our lives differently than the personality does. Because as humans, we're often incredibly hard on ourselves. We judge ourselves for struggling, for feeling afraid, for repeating patterns, for not healing quickly enough, for making mistakes, or for not having everything figured out. But what if the soul's perspective is much gentler? What if the soul is not measuring us by perfection or productivity? What if growth is not about flawlessly mastering life? And what if the soul understands that being human is difficult? Because honestly, it is. To love while knowing loss exists is difficult. To remain open after heartbreak is difficult. To trust after betrayal is difficult. To continue growing through grief, uncertainty, trauma, disappointment, fear, and change is difficult. Human life contains enormous contrast. And one of the reoccurring ideas in the journey of souls is that Earth may be one of the most challenging learning environments precisely because of that contrast. Because emotions here are intense, relationships are intense, separation feels real here, pain feels real here, fear feels real here. But through those experiences, souls may also develop compassion, wisdom, courage, empathy, discernment, boundaries, forgiveness, creativity, resilience, and love in ways that cannot fully happen from a purely spiritual perspective alone. And I think that changes the way we begin to look at our experiences, not in a way that dismisses pain. And I want to be very clear about that. I never want spirituality to become a way of bypassing human suffering or pretending everything happens for some perfect reason, because experiences are devastating. Some things should never have happened. Healing is real work. But I do think that there can be comfort in considering the possibility that our souls are larger than our hardest moments. Maybe our struggles are not proof that we're failing. Maybe they are part of an unfolding process we cannot fully see while we're inside of it. One of the ideas that appears in both spiritual teachings and many regression accounts is the concept of soul groups or soul families. The idea that certain souls incarnate together repeatedly, shifting roles from lifetime to lifetime in order to help one another evolve. Honestly, when you begin to look at relationships through that lens, so many experiences begin to feel different. Sometimes the soul connection feels incredibly comforting and supportive. Sometimes it feels magnetic and immediate. And sometimes it feels deeply challenging. Because not every soul connection arrives to bring ease. Some arrive to awaken us. Some arrive to mirror wounds we have not yet healed. Some arrive to help us reclaim boundaries, self-worth, authenticity, or truth. And some relationships completely change the trajectory of our lives, not because they lasted forever, but because of what they activated within us. I think many people listening have experienced that before. A relationship that cracked something open inside of you. A connection that changed the way you saw yourself. An ending that ultimately redirected your entire path. Maybe some souls come into our lives not only to comfort us, but to help evolve us. And I think this perspective can create more compassion towards ourselves too. Because instead of viewing our lives as a series of random failures or successes, we begin viewing ourselves as souls in process. We're learning, growing, remembering, evolving. We're not perfect. We're not finished, and we're not meant to have everything mastered immediately. We're just becoming. And this is one of the reasons I think so many people eventually feel drawn towards healing work, spirituality, meditation, intuition, energy work, or self-discovery in general. At some point, something inside of us begins asking deeper questions. Who am I underneath conditioning? What patterns did I inherit? What fears actually belong to me? What gifts did I come here carrying? What am I meant to experience in this lifetime? Why do certain lessons continue repeating? What is my soul trying to learn through this version of me? I think this is where human design becomes incredibly interesting. Because if we imagine that the soul enters this life with certain intentions, lessons, sensitivities, experiences it hopes to move through, then perhaps our design offers insight into that energetic path we're here to walk. Maybe our gifts are intentional. Maybe our sensitivities are intentional. Maybe even some of our challenges are invitations towards awareness and growth. A projector learning rest, energetic discernment, and self-worth. A generator learning satisfaction and sustainable creation. A manifester learning conscious impact and aligned initiation. A reflector learning environmental wisdom and energetic clarity. A manifesting generator learning flexibility and trusting the change of direction. Even the undefined centers can begin to feel meaningful through this lens. The places where we are most open may also become the places where we experience some of our deepest growth, our greatest empathy, and the strongest opportunities for awareness. And when I think about healing from the perspective of the soul, it changes the entire process for me. Healing isn't about fixing a broken person. It becomes more about remembering who we were underneath the fear, the survival, the conditioning, and the protection. Because I do not think that people are broken. I think many of us learned how to survive emotionally, energetically, mentally, or physically in environments where full authenticity did not feel safe. And maybe part of the soul's journey is finding our way back to ourselves, back to truth, back to authenticity, back to intuition, back to trust, and back to connection. One of the things that appears often in spiritual teachings is the idea that intuition may actually be connected to soul memory. And I think that many people have felt that before. Moments where something lands so deeply in your body, it feels ancient somehow, a knowing that you cannot logically explain. Maybe intuition isn't always about predicting the future. Maybe sometimes it's about remembrance. Remembering what aligns, who we are, remembering that there's more to this existence than what we can physically see. Spiritual awakenings often begin there, not necessarily with answers, but with remembering. Remembering that life has depth, that we are all connected, that growth is ongoing, and the soul may still be evolving through every experience we move through here. Maybe that's one of the most important things we can hold on to. The idea that we are allowed to evolve. You're not failing because you are changing. You're not wrong because your perspectives shift. You're not broken because healing takes time. You're not behind because your path looks different from someone else's. The soul's journey is not linear. There are seasons of expansion and seasons of rest, seasons of clarity and seasons of confusion. Times when we feel deeply connected and times when we feel completely lost. And maybe all of it belongs. Maybe becoming is part of the process. Maybe uncertainty is part of the process. Maybe growth itself is part of why we came here. And maybe the soul never expected perfection from us at all. Maybe what matters most is whether we allowed ourselves to fully experience this life while we were here. To love, learn, create, grieve, heal, connect, and become. Underneath it all, the soul is not asking us to prove our worth. Maybe it's just simply asking us to remember that we already have it. Until next time, trust the quiet wisdom your soul has been carrying. Allow yourself to evolve without needing every answer first. And remember, becoming is part of the journey. Take what you've heard today even further by joining my newsletter community. Each week, you'll receive journal prompts and reflections connected to the episode that are designed to guide you in bringing these conversations off the podcast and into your own journey. Let's keep going deeper together. The link is waiting for you below.